Welcome to My Two Cents, a community where we ask Aussie marketers three simple questions each month on a topic of their choice. This episode, we're diving into how marketers are using AI, their favourite tools, and use cases. For this topic, I'm bringing in a couple of experts to discuss it. I'm your host, Chris Jowsey, fractional CMO with Nugget Digital. My co-host is Denise Rainey, fractional CMO with Rainy Day Digital. And we're joined today by a very special guest, Taz Bareham. Welcome, Taz.
Thank you.
So Taz brings over 20 years solving business and marketing problems across SaaS, tech, e-commerce, FMCG. There's not many industries left, I don't think. She's worked above the line, below the line, behind the line, in retail, promotions, packaging, branding, business strategy. She's worked at both agency and in-house, extensive time as a chief marketing officer. In the last couple of years has been a fractional CMO. I guess more recently, Taz, I've seen on LinkedIn you've jumped ship again to the full-time CMO role. Congratulations. Before we go any further, what was the thinking about jumping back into the full-time gig?
Well, it wasn't intentional. It was actually a client I was working with fractionally since the beginning of the year. But sometimes you work with a company where you just love what you're doing. You realize that they're very values aligned. You realize that you don't want to leave when your fractional gig is up. I think the other draw card for me was it's all like largely female leadership team, largely female board. Given my background's B2B SaaS in Australia, it's not often that you get to come across a company that's set up like that. So it was a bit of a unique opportunity to not only work with a bunch of very smart women, but also in a company that's very values aligned in terms of the space they're playing in. They're heavily focused on sustainability across supply chains, across modern slavery, carbon emissions, biodiversity impact. So some big things and global impact. And I just wanted to be part of it. So yeah, jumped out of fractional and back into a full-time gig. Very fresh news. So only announced a few days ago.
Sounds like all the stars are aligned. Congrats.
Yeah, I feel so. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. It's almost like one of the benefits, isn't it? You get to try before you buy. And then in this case, it seemed like an opportunity too hard to give up.
Yeah, I mean, it's try before you buy on both sides, right? So for businesses hiring fractionals, it means they not only get senior leadership that they might not otherwise be able to afford, but also that they get to understand what an individual's like. And when you're hiring a senior leader, it's actually really difficult to find good fits for the business. And so it's a kind of way that's a win-win on both sides. Not that that's the intention that I went in with, but it was a lucky coincidence. And yeah.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I guess just to kind of preface the conversation, I guess, around AI, one of the big reasons I wanted to have a chat with yourself, I guess probably 6 months ago, I remember you posting or at least mentioning that you were going down the path of joining a few different AI courses. And I kind of just felt that you saw the opportunity pretty early on and you were really going to kind of dig into it pretty heavily. I guess a lot's changed even in the last kind of 6 months or so. What's your kind of perspective now? Are you still just as bullish? And I guess you feel like you've really, I guess, integrated in a lot of what you're doing?
It's definitely integrated into a lot of what I'm doing. I'm sure I'm behind many people that are out there that have really jumped in with both feet, but also I surprise myself daily when I talk to people that aren't embracing the opportunity and really having a play and explore and just seeing what it can do for them. So I think people talk about AI in one lump, but there's lots of different tools out there for lots of different things. ChatGPT was the one that made a ripple to everybody, but there was a lot of AI tools out there prior to that. And even since that, there are probably tools that people are using in their daily life without really labeling them as such or noticing them as such because they become so embedded into the day-to-day. So yeah, I'm still very much embracing it and relishing it, even though I've gone on the inside of a client business as well. I think as a fractional marketer, you probably use AI more than if you're inside a business in terms of you're working often as a solopreneur or with a collection of other people. And there's a lot of tools that help you to be more productive and to do more things and to think more laterally and to create more and run faster. And also, I suppose you're driving your own ship in terms of learning and needing to embrace tools and expectations with clients when you come in the door. So you naturally get involved in it, I think, as a fractional marketer. But once you get inside a business, there's often a level of complacency, which I find fascinating because it's just like a gift that's been given to us as marketers to have a play with and understand more. and an expectation that we just do so.
Yeah, I think it's probably early enough where, clients are probably grateful that you've got a point of view and some experience around how they could benefit from AI in the business, but there's probably not an expectation that you must have. So you've probably got this small window right now where fractionals can come in and, really get ramped up in the next year or two, and kind of lead from the front. But yeah, after that window's gone, I think the expectation is going to be pretty high.
Yeah, and I think with the business that I'm working in at the moment, some of their board and investor relations were asking me about how they find marketers that are AI enabled or AI skilled, because I think there's still an uncertainty about who knows what and how much people are embracing it. So I think if you are a marketer and you don't have to be highly skilled, you just have to be playing and just be aware and not sort of locking yourself in a room and hoping it'll all go away. That you're already ahead of the game a little bit just by virtue of that. And it can be overwhelming. There's a lot of stuff out there. And I think the advice that I got early on was don't try and embrace every single tool. Find a tool, learn it well, really push it as hard as you can before you start trying to take on too many other things. Otherwise, you just kind of spin and you just never get anywhere. Which is why, I know that I mentioned to you, Chris, that I did the Nicole Leffer course, who was somebody that I just heard talking a lot about AI on LinkedIn, ended up developing a course. She's been a big advocate for AI. She was a big advocate for finding a tool, embracing it well. She's starting to explore a lot of other tools now as well. But I kind of followed that philosophy and went deep before I went wide. And then I did a different course that enabled me to go wide and open my eyes to what was out there. But even with the knowledge of what was out there, I then put my blinkers back on and carried on going deep, largely over just a handful of tools, rather than getting too distracted by too many shiny things and not really getting anywhere with any of them.
Yeah, it's too easy to get carried away, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned Nicole. I think she's got a lot of great insights on LinkedIn and worth following. Yeah, I'll put a
Definitely.
link
And
to
it's
that.
free to follow her as well. She shares a lot of goodness without you needing to sign up to any courses or anything else with her. She's just somebody that gives freely in this space, and you can learn a lot by learning alongside her. And there's a handful of others out there, I think.
Yeah, I guess from a course perspective, do you think it's a must at this stage for marketers to at least try and upskill themselves with someone like Nicole? I guess for a lot of people, they've been probably at that early stage of at least you trying to use it every day, and from a tool perspective, and getting it into their workflow. But yeah, I guess what were the kind of some of the bigger benefits you think of going through a more structured course like that?
Also, like you said, a lot's changed even since I did Nicole's course, because that was sort of mid to late last year. And she was adding updates to that course constantly, because as soon as she shared content, everything had changed again, right? Especially at the end of this year. But I think the benefit for me was a concentrated focus time on trying to immerse myself in a tool and upskill on it. Because I think if you're relying on playing and finding your own way, it can take a lot longer versus tapping into somebody that's done it before you and can give you kind of the guide of how to get there faster. That said, I think that because the AI tools have come so far, there's a lot of them where you can actually prompt them to teach you how to use that tool. You don't necessarily need an external course. You can challenge the tool and say, look, the UR prompts that everybody's out there. So you're giving somebody a persona, giving the AI tool a persona. You say, you are new to AI. You are new to using this tool. You are a marketer that needs to embed it into your daily processes. Teach me step by step in layman's terms how to start using this tool. Don't leave any gaps out of it. How can I use it for X, Y, and Z? And give it the use cases as well. And often the tool can teach you itself how to or structure a learning program for you in order to go on that journey. And I'm talking about obviously the likes of ChatGPT or Claude or something like that, as opposed to some of the visual tools, etc. But you don't necessarily need to go onto a prescribed course to get ahead. You can do it just by playing with the tools themselves and challenging them to teach you directly.
Yeah, that's great. I guess you've got the added benefit with the course of someone with like Nicole, who's got that expertise in marketing. So she knows exactly where to kind of see the benefit for marketers. And I guess you've also got that accountability as well, isn't it? You can easily start one week and then just get tied up in something else for another week.
Well, I think you've got more clear progress milestones to check off against to say, have I gone through everything that I was meant to do? Whereas if you do it kind of active play yourself, like you said, you can get lost down a rabbit hole and not necessarily get to what you were trying to achieve. You've had a nice time and you've explored some stuff, but you didn't necessarily get to the task that you wanted to do. Whereas going on a course is a bit more structured learning, and you can kind of tick off to say, I've done it and I've come out the other side. And then the other thing, I suppose, is if you've got a course that's got a certification against it, and Nicole is one of them, that actually you get an actual legitimate certificate that you can put onto your LinkedIn profile. There's a lot of companies out there that are looking for people with evidence of LinkedIn skills. And so having valid certifications will help your profile as well, versus just saying, yes, I have deep play interactions with my favorite tools, you know.
Jumping into this month's survey, we surveyed 103 marketers, and I guess to kick things off, we wanted to just get a feel for the tools that marketers are using. The top three here, probably no surprise that ChatGPT is number one. It's almost like the gateway app of choice, isn't it, into AI? And I'm just finding, even myself, that I probably started off heavy usage of ChatGPT, and I'm probably 50-50 now between ChatGPT and Gemini. Interested to know, I guess, what's your tool of choice, Denise?
I'm like you, ChatGPT, and possibly in retrospect, we should have asked about paid versus free version. So it started out free version, now work on a paid version. Also just, exploring other options now and just keen to do some comparisons, and also just keen to sort of do some sort of reverse engineering and look at some of the AI detection tools and just sort of, baseline different things and get some sort of understanding, I guess, about the kind of content that's being created and what the AI detection tools are picking up. Because at the moment, I just find that they are so unreliable and so variable. And even when you run 100% human content through them, they still find patterns that they believe are AI. So it's really fascinating, I think, to start to do some of those comparisons and baselines.
I've been working with this business since January, and we have, as a team, have got a ChatGPT account set up, which then means we've got it's not configured to keep teaching ChatGPT anything. So I have Chatty in my pocket when I go for my morning walk with my dog, and we brainstorm all sorts of things. I do use other tools as well, like Claude, like Perplexity, more from a research perspective. And then there's other ones that are kind of embedded into tools that you're using, like HubSpot with Copilot and Canva and all the sort of meeting recording tools. Like, I think I had Fathom on my computer for a long time until I worked out how to get rid of it, but Otter and Fireflies and those. So go to AI tool in terms of the majority and the broadest range of things that I can do with it would still definitely be ChatGPT, but there's a lot of others now that are kind of part of my day-to-day.
Yeah, I guess to your point, Denise, as well, I think around testing multiple models. I mean, it does get a little bit long in the tooth when you're testing 2 or 3 models at a time.
Mm-hmm.
But as you say, it just raises a bit of concern, doesn't it, when you're getting quite varied differences in accuracy and output.
Definitely. But I think, like everything, it's going to resolve over time. And I think that, that time period will be quite quick. When you look at the improvements, everything is moving so fast.
Yeah, and I think Denise's point as well, I think anything where I'm trying to get something where I'm trying to trust an output, I would potentially put same prompt into different tools and see what's coming out of it. And that will help me validate both, like where it's pulling from, whether it's generated, and accuracy and things like that. So sometimes it's quite a fun exercise to have 2 or 3 tools open at the same time and feed them the same prompt and laugh at the massive disparity in what's coming back to you, just to really highlight what's going on. And I think the other thing, there's been lots of press on LinkedIn and other places about hallucinations on AI, so you can't take anything at face value. So I think it's just good practice to always be changing between tools and checking how things are going and potentially using different tools for different things, rather than assuming one tool is good for everything and you're always going to get something trustworthy out of it.
Yeah. I think it also sharpens the instructions that you give any tool as well.
Yeah. It's a bit like a child.
Let me ask you another way.
Yeah. Let me reframe that until we get the answer we need.
I guess the second piece to this was asking marketers around their most common use cases. So I guess the top three here, we had written content, personalization, and data analysis. Again, probably no surprise that written content was number one. I guess that's
Pretty close,
that
though.
paired with ChatGPT is probably one of the most common use cases, at least when people start. And then I guess before I continue, I thought I'll add a couple of the use cases that were shared, like AI as a research assistant. And this is something that I do a lot as well around mining podcasts for fresh insights and thought leadership. The second use case is around voice of the customer. And this is kind of taking note takers to the next level. An agency's using custom GPTs on top of the note taker to record interviews, to draft personas and content strategies for clients, saving hours. So that's really kind of taking that to the next level, which is a great use case. And then the third one there, AI as an editor. I think this is kind of going to that next level from starting off as AI as content writer to really seeing AI as an editor. Here's the example here. We lean on Grammarly for consistent voice and plagiarism checks, and ChatGPT projects to evaluate feedback against internal best practices. So all of those, three good examples. Any particular examples jump out at you?
The one that jumps out to me is the strategy. And I like to think particularly of ChatGPT as like means to almost employ like the Socratic method of inquiry to sort of, drill down and particularly in areas where I'm not an expert, and let's face it, who is an expert in, everything, but just to sort of, test my meaning, to ask questions, to provide examples and, prompt in terms of, assumptions and validity or variations. I find that really helpful. It's like having someone who knows way more than you do that you can ask endless questions and bounce ideas around. So that's where I find it particularly interesting as a strategy leading onto content.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. So, I've said I take Chatty in my pocket in the morning for the walk with the dog. So I often just use it as a banter partner to bounce ideas backwards and forwards, or to refine thinking towards problem solving, or to teach me about specific topics like I told you about before. Or when I was working as a fractional marketer, I'd use it to get a fast immersion on a particular client or a particular competitive set for that client, the market that they were running in. Now with my company that I've just joined, where it's heavy on legislation and a whole bunch of stuff that I've never really been exposed to before in terms of reporting and compliance, I'm using it to explain things in layman's terms that are very complicated, to try and get my head around it. So I guess that would all be bundled into sort of the strategy and planning. And then I also use it for really basic stuff outside of marketing, like what am I going to make for dinner with the three things that have left in my fridge? Or how am I going to persuade my 11-year-old to get into bed on time tonight? Yeah.
I haven't tried that one. I might have to try that one.
But then from a marketing perspective, I don't know if it came up, but just SEO is really important. I think with ChatGPT, I think with Claude as well, I've got projects set up within it, and those projects might be different. It's almost like using it as a marketing team extension. So each of those projects might be named, like, so there might be one that's more about website optimization and CRO. There might be one that might be SEO specialist, one that's a expert content writer or whatever. And so for each of those, they kind of set up the persona for those projects. And so each persona then acts like as an expert in relation to the job to be done. And that means that I can call on marketing expertise with a virtual team, if you like, to try and move the needle further than I might be able to do by myself. So I find that super useful as well.
That was one of the things that I found surprising, that SEO didn't come up in the top three, because for me, and I guess maybe it's I'm prioritizing it more because I have a strong background in SEO. But for me, it's kind of the easy entry point. And there's just so much, repetitive and bulk work that you need to do in terms of SEO, like keyword mapping and, all of the different optimizations and not duplicating content and page titles and just, continually refining things. There's a lot of hack work there that AI can absolutely help you with and take, a website, from, 0 to sort of 8 out of 10 in terms of SEO optimization really quickly. So I'm surprised that more people haven't picked up on that as a really useful function.
Yeah, I think that comes back to the fact that people kind of played around when everything hit the headlines, and they've got a very much sort of a content focus on it. But then the next part of that is more the technical side of how to apply that content from a digital perspective. So how you ensure keyword mapping, how you ensure tagging. And also, I think the other thing that came up for me the other day, which I thought was interesting, was not just thinking about SEO, but also thinking about content in relation to how AI engines are searching and surfacing that content to make sure that you're optimizing for AI, not just optimizing for Google, which is like another layer
Absolutely.
on your content optimization that AI can help you with, but it's kind of an interesting layer to add on top of all the others.
I guess kind of wrapping a bow around this topic, if you were to think about cutting advice from an AI perspective.
I think, although I'm quite a heavy user, I never take anything at face value. So to Denise's point, I think everything that I've found value in has been the result of a lot of backwards and forwards and lots of detailed instruction and prodding the AI to do more and to do better. So you need to get good at prompting. You need to provide lots of context when you're prompting to build the knowledge base, because AI gets better as you give it more. Cross-check all your facts fiercely. So they're still super unreliable, as we were just saying. So ask for sources, check them, and never take anything verbatim. So it's AI that I've experienced so far isn't at a point where it's just assume that you've got good stuff straight out of it, but it's really a partnership and a backwards and forwards tug to try and get something useful out of it. The other thing I learned from a couple of the courses I've been is, and I know people who talk about this all the time, is about the AI hallucinations, is that you can actually tell AI when it's wrong, challenge it, push it. There's been lots of times when I looked at something and I'm like, I don't think that's right. And then I've literally said, I don't think that's right. And the next thing you know, it's gone, you know what, you're right, that's wrong. And then gone off in a complete tangent. So if you hadn't have done that, first of all, it wouldn't be learning. And secondly, you'd be sitting there regurgitating something to somebody looking like a fool because you've taken it at face value. So I think it's just know what it can bring to you, explore it, have a play with it, but then never take anything as it is, as it comes out, because it always needs human intervention to validate and check and refine and add the goodness. So we still got jobs. That's the good news.
I think the really good thing about AI is that when you challenge it and question and say, I think you're wrong, always an incredibly gracious response. So it's often not like the real world where someone will push back and, you'll end up, having a disagreement. It's always a very congenial way to work.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
especially depending on how you set your profile up, because one of the things that Nicole covered was like how to set your profile up so you teach it how you want to be addressed and spoken to. And so actually, I recommend this for everybody here. Go onto the likes of ChatGPT and ask it, what are the top 10 ways that people like to be addressed or have chosen to be addressed by their AI tool? There's some really crazy fun stuff. There's like your Royal Highness and that Lord of the universe and whatever it is, that every interaction starts with that. So not only can it be polite, but it can be very specific depending on what you give it, and have some fun with it.
Yeah. I think just really to sum up what you said, it really is a matter of co-pilot, not autopilot. It's great to have a tool side by side in almost everything that you do. Almost everything that you do in a marketing perspective, I think you can enhance through the use of AI. And I guess I'd say to anyone, just start with the really low risk things.
Yeah.
CRM, generate some new email subject lines, do some A/B testing, find out what works, what doesn't, but just, start with some small, low risk steps. But most of all, make sure that you have the final say and that, your own kind of uniqueness and brand identity and humanity and authenticity is the icing on the cake.
Yeah. But whatever you do, don't stick your head in the sand and assume it's going away. I think the main thing is just have a go and start playing, because it becomes less scary the more that you have a go with it and understand it. And whatever you're doing as a marketer, you're probably doing more than your clients are doing. So they will still look to you for answers and respect from it. But if you're not having a go, you're going to get left behind really quickly.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah, as you
true.
say, I think the opportunity here with AI is massive. Like if you think about the last kind of 25 years since the internet's kind of kicked on, multiple kind of waves, everything from social media to digital to e-commerce. If you're a laggard in that respect, it really kind of left you behind. And I think this opportunity with AI feels like it's going to dwarf that pretty quickly. If I was a new marketer coming up, I'd be jumping in with 2 feet and just thinking, how can I join a company that's either AI first or is really curious about where AI is going, or just so much usage yourself to get 2 or 3 steps ahead of where you think everyone else is. Like the opportunity is massive.
But never, ever, ever put any customer information or identifiers in there.
All right. Well, it's been a great discussion. I think it'd be great to revisit this in 6 to 12 months again,
You
just
might
to
not
see
need
where.
that long. I think the world's going to change in the next 3.
But yeah, moving at a rapid rate. But Taz, really appreciate you joining the chat, and good luck with the new/old role.
Thank you.
Great to talk with you, Taz, and all the best. Good luck.
All right. You're welcome.